I'm very honored and pleasure to have you here, especially Lieutenant Governor, sorry. Yeah, Lieutenant Governor from the Colorado. And this is government's program called Tech Incubator Program for Startups in South Korea. Under the ministry, we are supporting strategically the technology startups. So how is it going? Before TIPS program, the South Korean government, the officers or politicians were directly selecting which startup to support. This is nonsense. Yeah. Officers are choosing the innovative players. That is a huge dichotomy. But but one officer, roughly around 10 years ago, he realized, oh, I know nothing about the innovation. Yeah, acknowledgement to his own ignorance. I call that wisdom. So he decided to delegate that startup discovering and pre-funding activities to the private investors. So we are giving them licenses, like qualifications, and after that we call them TIPS licensed investors. And then they have role and responsibility to discover a startup and invest first. So they do all due diligence by themselves. And then, because they are licensed investors, they can recommend that startup to the government. After getting the recommendation, we scan them with regard to like business plans and technology and research and development plan as well. And after, when they are eligible for getting the grant, we give them at the general track $500,000 for 2 years of our R&D. And when it comes to deep tech track, we are giving them $1.5 million for 3 years of R&D. Those startups are so happy, as I have told you, because without dilution getting this bunch of the money, and the investors are happy too, because they can leverage their capital. So how is it performing now? Globally, 50% of the startups failed within 5 years, and 70% failed 10 years. When it comes to South Korea, it is really hard to start and maintain and sustain and grow something up. 72% failed within 5 years in South Korea. What about TIPS program players? For the past 11 years, we have partnered with 104 private investors. By leveraging their capabilities, we have supported 2,734 startups. And could you guess how much percentage of the startups are now surviving? 60. Oh, that's more than a miracle of Han River. The government's policy program to support technology startups. Technology startups are subject to their, no revenues, no profits. They have long pipeline to survive and maintain themselves. So it is really hard to survive. 60% of the survival rate, only 2.5% out of business, meaning that 97.5% are surviving. Thank you so much. Yeah. One of the best value of the startup is supposed to be hyper growth. Hyper hiring top-notch talents coming in there and then skyrocketing like a SpaceX. They are supposed to be doing that like that. Yeah, maintaining, generating revenues and high profits and sustainable growth and global expansion. That's the first virtue. If one cannot keep that, the second virtue, I believe, is to survive. As long as we survive, we can find the opportunities to adapt and evolve ourselves. And that's what we call innovations. Many of the startups under TIPS portfolio companies are surviving, but yes, still we have to be very suspicious. There could be maybe some zombie startups. But you know what? This is quantity, but when it comes to quality, for the past 10 years, South Korean government has put $986 million to support these startups. And after getting the TIPS grant, the startups, in their own market activities, they have raised $9.9 billion as a follow-on investment, which is 10 times more than the government original grant. And 158 teams raised overseas funding. The combined value of the funding was $589 million. And 19 went public, 73 exited through M&A. The combined value of the M&A deal was $705 million. And these are one of the most proud numbers that I wanted to represent. 1,306 startups, after getting the TIPS grant, raised no more follow-on fund. This is not because they were incapable of raising fund, but because they are still, most of them are still R&D grant period. This year, we are selecting and supporting 900 startups. Last year, it was 720. And 2 years ago, it was 500 startups, meaning that those startups, most of them, half of the portfolio companies under R&D grant period. When we strip this group out, almost 100% of the startups raised outside funding as a follow-on investment by proving their own capabilities. 872 raised $1.5 million per startup per average, and 235, $7 million, 228, $17 million, and 93 raised $65 million, meaning that 93 startups are half unicorn status. Their valuation after the investment ranges roughly around $300 million to $500 million. We could have more like 50 or 60 more unicorns. They should be coming from these TIPS portfolio companies. So when we combine the total valuation of those startups post-investment value, it reaches roughly around $100 billion. You know what? To run this country, in 2023, we needed $600 billion. Social welfare, national defense, education, everything to do that, $600 billion. And South Korean government is now facing fiscal trilemma. Super aged society, so we need social welfare. To do that, we need more tax. But no baby's crying now here. No baby's crying. Income tax, oh, corporate taxes. Look at the Samsung Electronics stock market decline these days. Hyundai, they are doing well. SK Hynix, doing well enough, but we have no idea this could be sustained for the next decade. So we are questioning to ourselves, where should we earn money? Should we issue more national bonds? Though our national bond had been included to FTSE index now, but still there is a nuclear weapon in North Korea, and we have no idea when we will end this like economic war between United States and China. And we have no idea what China will do to Taiwan. So we are very worried about that. What we have to do, what we need to focus is to make some small but sustainable innovation system by fostering not only research and development environment, but also startups, bravery, courage, warrior, fighters. We have to cultivate them. That's the decision of South Korea now. Those startups who went public, Lunit and Vuno, are very proud players in the bio and healthcare sector. One of the company called Sualab had been acquired by Nasdaq-listed company. And Dable is also acquired by Kakao Enterprise. And those like AI companies and robotics, or some SaaS services, software as a service, and women fashion branding services, almost every one of them are adopting AI technologies. But not only that, but also they are truly generating certain type of added values and generating revenues and profitably growing well. And not only these players, but also we have huge to-be unicorn status companies here. Now you are visiting here, Tipstown, number 1 building. It has been established in 2015, the first building. And since we had huge tons of the demand from the founders, because they not only wanted to get the budget as R&D, but also they wanted to get the opportunity to network, connections, mentoring, education as well. So we have now 6 buildings here. Not only government-supported buildings, but also we have private buildings, business incubators called Maru 180, Maru 360. And do you remember Gangnam Style? Yeah, and Gangnam also decided to set up their own business incubator here, Gangnam Startup Hub. So now we have 9 buildings in total as a business incubator, which is hosting more than 200 super early stage startups, investors, and supporting organizations as well. And this is a very rare case. If it were like a Silicon Valley or Colorado, how would it be? It could be more than like 100 miles long. You know what? From here to here, only 300 meters. It's that density. You know these groups, BTS and Blackpink? Yeah, I love them, especially them. Part two. And have you ever thought about why South Korea is generating this like a cultural richness? K-pop, K-drama, K-dances, There's like a genuine DNA, and that has been embedded in certain companies called Hype, Big Hit Entertainment, and YG Entertainment. But we believe only culture cannot feed whole population of the South Korea for the next decade. To feed whole population of the South Korea welfare, nicer education, to be more competitive in this global market, not only these cultural assets, but also we need to incubate and cultivate more things, much, much more. Global climate challenges, war and hatred everywhere. To resolve that, we believe we need to incubate. And that has been done for the past 10 years with the support of the Ministry of SMEs and Startups in South Korea, the TIPS program. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Apply, only about 10% get in, and that they don't necessarily need to be South Korean. Like a Colorado company could apply for this program?
Sure.
Is that true?
Sure, yeah. When a certain company is based in Colorado and establish a subsidiary company in South Korea, they should be, they have to be legally registered the company in South Korea. And the founders in South Korea legal entity should possess at least 60% of the shares. Yeah. After raising funds from TIPS licensed investors. After getting the TIPS license, raising funds from TIPS licensed investors, the founders in South Korean entity possesses more than 60% of the shares. They can be eligible for applying for this TIPS program grant. Yes. So the nationality of the founders doesn't matter. Yeah, please.
Do you accept applications on a continual basis, or are there certain times of the year when the...
Continual basis. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Every year, every month. Okay. Yes.
And then you notify them within a month, or...
It takes roughly around 1.5 months. After getting the acceptance with the documentations, business proposals, research and development plan. Because since we can be very quick, because almost every kind of a due diligence is already done by the private investors already. So we have believed them and have not. So have not part, we do that administrative works. Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk just a little bit about what that process is to select that due diligence process?
Okay. So first and foremost, the important thing is to select licensed investors. So that is one of the top scrutiny that we take into, because those licensed investors, if they are not trustable, this system just collapses. So that is one of the hardest part. So if that is okay with that, then the process goes, they discover a startup and then invest. And okay, this startup is based on like a very pure technology thing. And then they recommend the startup to us. After getting the acceptance, as I have told you, business proposals and research and development plan as well. And then we see the proof of the real transactions and proof of the real establishments or MOU or intellectual properties or patents or proof of the real capability of the founders. Is this founder really graduated from Stanford? Kind of those things. Because we are doing administrative works. So when all things get clear, so we invite outside judges, and those judges reevaluate the document, and listen to the business presentation and research and development presentation as well. And those outside judges give us the scorings, and then we aggregate it and analyze it, and whether or not to give them grant. Yeah, that's all.
How good a match is the TIPS program for a more heavily capital-intensive sort of business? For example, suppose someone has a better idea for energy storage than, let's say, LG Chem. But battery manufacturing is very capital-intensive. It's a lot of people, quality, in addition to basic R&D, in addition to national approvals and standards compliance. That's very expensive. So can TIPS support a new entity in that case, or is there some other program that would support a more heavily capital?
What a question. What a question. So as Mr. Jin, founder Jin, have mentioned, we have a series of other connected programs before TIPS program, we have pre-TIPS program and seed TIPS program as well. They have like a little bit of different styles. And after finishing the TIPS R&D, we have post-TIPS program. And there is like a scale-up TIPS program as well. So at each stages of the grant program, and when it comes to TIPS, we have like accelerators, like early stage type of the A16Z, early stage. But A16Z, and they are also supporting the latter part of the like VC rounds, and like Sequoia and Klein Perkins are doing. So we have these VCs who are only focusing on that, those kind of like more than Series C areas, like mezzanines. When those VCs are included and coming in the way, yeah, we are introducing them like a scale-up TIPS programs or other stages of the programs as well. So we are ready for that.